You're listening to Walk the Herd on 93.7 The Ticket, where unheard issues get brought to light and every perspective counts. Here are your hosts, Rebecca Pearson and Aniko Renee.
Good evening, Lincoln, Nebraska, and Southern Maryland. It is 7:02 Lincoln time, 8:02 Maryland time. How's it going, Aniko?
It's going good. Excited to get an extra day with my little man tomorrow. A little disappointed in the lack of snow we got. It's mostly mess, so but good overall.
That's great. I'm having to deal with some technology here, so I'm just going to fix something there. So this is Aniko and Rebecca on Walk the Herd, and if you're just joining us this evening for the first time, Walk the Herd is a show about unheard perspectives where every perspective counts. And we try to give different topics, different airtime. We've got quite a few really cool ones in the works with all kinds of interesting guests coming. I just landed another one on artificial intelligence, Aniko. So that's going to be a fun one as well. But yeah, the show, hopefully you stay tuned and listen tonight. I am coming hot off of a comedy club act. So I'll talk about that in a sec, but we'd love to have you join the conversation tonight. We're going to talk about, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about Martin Luther King Jr., basically, and some different perspectives that you and I have, and also what we know. This show is so much fun because you and I get to do research and learn things, and we would love for you to participate. So if you want to drop in a chat on 402-464-5685, that's our text line. Or you can call in our Honda of Lincoln hotline. You're watching us on the Starter Heyman video stream. Drop in chats, Facebook and X, or watch us on channel 961 through Allo. And of course, these are all recorded, so we'd love for you to share the show if you like the show with other people. And I hope that, Aniko, I was thinking about this as I was walking up to this station. I've just come from this comedy show, which is a whole different set of perspectives. But one of the things I think is neat about this show is you and I are just regular people, and we're sharing regular people perspectives. So I'm psyched just because I know that you and I did a little research for this because we had to.
Yes, there's so many interesting things that I'm hoping I remember everything. So I have notes today.
Yeah, notes are perfect. One of the things about radio having cameras is that people see that you have notes, but even Jake Bacoven has notes, and Jake Bacoven knows everything. Yeah. We all have notes. So it's all good, and what we're really trying to do is give, people that are listening to us a chance to go, that's something I want to go look into. But before we dive into the topic today, which I do think you'll find it interesting, we're going to talk about Martin Luther King Jr. We're going to talk about Malcolm X, who's from Nebraska. And we'll talk about tomorrow, since it is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which is a federal holiday, which is in and of itself saying something. But I just came from a comedy show at the Howler. So if you're here in Lincoln, you may not know what the Howler is. So I'm just going to give them a shout out. It is in the downstairs part of the building at the beer house. And Aniko, you may remember when you were here with Nate, the beer house. It's right around the corner from us. It has the rooftop bar and all that. So if you know that restaurant downtown, the Howler is I guess I'm going to call it a pop-up comedy club, maybe is what you would call it. It's not always a comedy club, right? And they had Tom Arnold in, and you're going to have to be of my generation probably to know who Tom Arnold is. You know who Tom Arnold is, Aniko?
Of course. Wasn't he married to Roseanne at one point?
He was married to Roseanne. That's what I tell everybody, because maybe but some people don't even know who Roseanne is. So Roseanne Barr of the Roseanne Show. And the national anthem fiasco, and, many other things, right? But so you might know the name. And she was married to him once, and it wasn't very long. So, yes, he's here in town. And I just came from his first show, which was great, actually. I was telling Jake that he's somewhat on the straight and narrow these days. I mean, Tom has a very sordid history, as many Hollywood celebrities and actors have been through drugs, alcohol, and all kinds of other things. But he became sober in 1989. So he's really on the straight and narrow. It was a pretty clean show as far as comedians go. And it wasn't really stand-up. It was him telling stories about his life and, filling in the blanks, of which many things he said, it's true, go Google it. So I ran home very quickly and Googled a few, and sure enough, the stories he's telling are true. And yeah, very, very unique, interesting, complimentary, was not throwing people under the bus or anything. And he's really proud he has kids. So super fun evening for anybody who hasn't had a chance to go to the Howler. Keep an eye on it. Very simple, basic setup there, but very well done. So what do you think, Aniko? Shall we try to kick this off? And you can use your notes and I'll use my notes. We're going to drag Jake maybe into this a couple of times as well. And we have some clips to share, which will be something new for us to do that I thought might be kind of fun to give people some things to think about. So where do you want to start with this topic?
I think we should probably start with describing who each of them are, respectfully, for people who may not know or may have a different view of who they are.
Or forgot.
Yes, very true. A lot of times you only learn about these things in February. So for some people, if it's not that month, it's not in their register.
Right. Or you learned it in school and it was, either 5 years ago or 55 years ago.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Martin Luther King Jr. was a Baptist minister and civil rights leader who championed nonviolent protests to challenge segregation, America's morals, and to push for racial equality in America. He believed lasting change came through nonviolence, coalition, or community building, and appealing to America's moral conscience. So kind of checking and holding the mirror up to them. Malcolm X was a human rights activist who emphasized Black empowerment, self-determination, and confronting racism unapologetically by any means necessary, offering more of a militant critique of America's racial system. And he argued that Black people needed to defend themselves, reclaim their identity, and demand justice without waiting for approval from the system that was oppressing them.
Interesting.
How's
so
that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot, right? And we're not going to have a super heavy show, and we certainly are not having a political show, right? We're just sharing perspectives just because of the timing. But, also these are today topics.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time they show us this history, this time in history in black and white, which kind of gives us the illusion that it was so long ago. But Ruby Bridges is in her 60s, I believe. And, the first Black girl to attend a desegregated school. And even Dad, DP was one of the first in his area in Northern Virginia to be bussed in based on his sport ability and, I would like to say charisma, but it's a very recent and current issue,
It is. Yeah, I mean, your dad's story is very interesting. Maybe someday he has told it before. It depends on when you catch the show or when he's in the mood to tell that story, because it's it leaves quite an imprint on a kid, which he was when he was bussed. But that's a whole different story. So the good news is, fast forward to the year 2025, I believe everyone would say we've made some progress. What do you think?
Yes, some progress has been made for sure. I think if we take out a specific race, we're still actively battling some of the same issues and inequalities based on look, class, and many races right now. But the ability for me to be here to speak on it, to offer my perspective, to be in a position to co-host a podcast shows that we have made progress.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And I think both of these men very focused on the African American history, Black history in this country. When I was doing research, and we're going to play some clips because I hope they give people something to think about. And certainly, even if you've heard some of the speeches from either one of these men, and we'll talk more about Martin Luther than Malcolm X, but he happens to be from Nebraska. So, an incredibly influential person in all of these movements. But, they spoke to me just as a human. And I think that really was a lot of what Martin Luther King Jr. was really trying to get at, right? Is there's the humanity.
Exactly. And to watch their change and growth in perspectives as they were on this journey to make things better for other people just shows like the evolution happens whether we're expecting it to or not. progress and change, even within a person, happens whether we're trying or not.
And the youth is really important for change everywhere. But we've had many guests on the show that talk about the importance of getting people when they're younger. And we all know that we form a lot of our opinions in our lives when we're younger, we're growing up, right? These are the formative years. We've had lots of conversation about being 0 to 5. Then you've got, 5, you go into kind of a more structured school system, and then fast forward to 18 and you're kind of out on your own, right? Kind of a traditional path. What's fascinating to me, though, is just how important the youth is and was. And a speech, or like a commencement speech that I came across that Dr. King gave back in 1967 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And it's such a great message for every child in high school that's getting ready to graduate. And so I thought I'd love to play the whole darn thing, because I think it's just, I get goosebumps because it's so relevant to everyone. But when you put it back in 1967, so I was born in 1963, so I don't remember anything of Dr. King's years in the 63 to 67 timeframe. So 1963 was when he did I Have a Dream speech that most people have heard of. But this one is one of the lesser known ones. And so we're going to hopefully Jake is going to be able to tee up this it's just a 40-second clip, you guys, but it's about what is your life's blueprint. So here is Martin Luther King Jr. talking to Barrett Junior High School in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, October 26, 1967.
I want to ask you a question, and that is, what is in your life's blueprint? Number one in your life's blueprint should be a deep belief in your own dignity, your own worth, and your own somebodyness. Don't allow anybody to make you feel that you are nobody.
So that one just gives me the chills, Aniko. I love that message. How does that sit with you?
It's like you said, it's still very relevant, and it's easy to get lost in the sauce, so to say, with being in the digital world. You have so many different highlight reels of people's lives, and it can make you feel like you're behind, or you haven't figured out who you are yet. We kind of touched on that last week. Mm-hmm. So starting and basing yourself in, like, there's only one me, and I'm the youiest you that you can be, is empowering in itself. Like, you already are who you're becoming, and that's relief.
Right. And you're a mom, so when you think about messages to your child, I love the be your own somebodyness.
Yes, I tell Nathaniel often, your biggest goal is to remain who you are right now. Yeah. People are going to try to bend, to break, to suggest, but you don't want to get to adulthood and try to remember, who am I? It's who you are now. So definitely.
And it was really, in 1967, it couldn't have been more important of the country, United States, going through so much angst from trying to work towards equality, still very new in this country in the 60s, and not letting other people tear you down and say you're less than. And even in today's world, so fast forward to 2025, the mental health crisis that gets talked about a lot, and kids who are bullied, right? Bullying took off. It's the same message we have for the youth of don't let other people tear you down, right?
Absolutely.
We need this younger generation to make it out. This is the next generation of driving change. So all the change that we all want, and we all don't agree what change we want, but I think everybody would agree we want the world to be better than when we got here, right? I think
and both of these men realized that hatred and lack of community and lack of more than one formula to the problem, it didn't work. So we have to rely on each other.
And it's also the underpinning of having diverse, different opinions brought to light for conversation, which is what this show is about. Is you don't have to agree with what you and I are saying, but it's good to hear what we're saying if you don't think like we do. And we're also trying to bring all types of opinions here. It's not just us. We have lots of guests on who are sharing their experiences, but you have your perspective based on your experience. So if you try to understand why somebody might have the perspective based on their experience, then you're learning something that you didn't know about that person, and it might explain why they think about things a certain way, just like you and Miss Miki were talking about. Was that last week already?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Gosh,
Yes, 2026 is moving expeditiously.
Well, and so, if you think about what tomorrow is supposed to be, it is a federal holiday, and the intention is that you take the federal holiday and maybe think about some of these things, right? So if you were thinking about something was important to you, like what do you remember learning about Martin Luther King Jr. in school or in your family? Like, what do you remember growing up, and what did you learn?
First and foremost, I'd have to say tomorrow, right now in 2026, I'm grateful that it's still a federal holiday, because there was even recent talk of that not being so, and it not being a valid thing to celebrate or pick apart. So I'd like to say, thank goodness it still is one. But what I remember from growing up was I was taught a lot about his tone and not so much the message or consequences or changes that he was asking for, and that he was radical. I didn't know how radical he was about the Vietnam War, about change, about capitalism. I got the softened version that is more palatable, that doesn't spark, chaos or fighting. Just being able to say this person did this without making a fuss, without hurting people, like that's the way you go about things. And you kind of hear the sentiment now of like, if you just comply, if you just do what you're supposed to do, then you'll have all these things happen your way. And that's not the case. That's not what happened.
Right. So how do you, he certainly was an advocate for change in a nonviolent way. But he also talked about the system that he could see, right? So systemic bias in the country and some of those things that created that. He would not have been the only one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in school, do you remember a lot of teaching? So you grew up in rural Maryland, where you are now for the most part, right? Or part of Virginia?
Yep. I was in Northern Virginia in the first part, and then Southern Maryland in the latter. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember anything? Was it just another thing in the history books, or was there something, because DC was certainly prominent in a lot of this conversation, being in and around the Washington, DC area. Do you remember anything special?
In Northern Virginia, my classmates were predominantly white. So I got the good parts, the highlights that are comfortable and easy to digest. But once I moved to Southern Maryland, I had more predominantly Black classmates. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of my first peek into, this is more than just one of the 28 people you learn about in February. This is more than just a fable or figure that one good person was able to make change because he was good and stayed in the lines. They were more open to letting us know, like, this man was harassed, he was stalked, he was labeled as dangerous. And I was kind of like, wait, what? It was very eye-opening, a different perspective.
Right. And the clip we just heard, so if you're just joining us, this is Aniko and Rebecca on Walk the Herd, where unheard perspectives are heard and every perspective counts. And we're talking about Martin Luther King Jr. And we'd love for you to join in the conversation. Drop us a text in the YouTube feed if you're watching that, or 402-464-5685. Martin Luther King had this very calming, measured tone in which he spoke. And if you just heard the clip we played, you got a little bit about it. I want to play another clip because Martin Luther King Jr. also won the Nobel Peace Prize, which, you know, a lot of these topics we're talking about today have current words that make you think of things in today's world. And we are not a political show. So I just want to say that because we're talking about nonviolence. We're going to talk about, you know, standing up for what you believe in. All these things are going on around us today, but these are things that were happening back in the 60s. And so that's good perspective. So I'd like to play this clip from Martin Luther King, again, 30-second clip or so, from accepting and talking about the Nobel Peace Prize.
After contemplation, I conclude that this award, which I receive on behalf of that movement, is a profound recognition that nonviolence is the answer to the crucial political and moral questions of our time. The need for man to overcome oppression and violence without resorting to violence and oppression. Civilization and violence are antithetical concepts.
I love that last statement of civilization and violence are antithetical, you know, just basically opposites. You can't be civilized and then be violent, you know, and it really struck me. But you could also hear how measured his tone is, right? That's how he always spoke.
Yes,
and
his
so
religious background definitely played a part in his preaching. You know, the reverend part of his name is very true.
yeah, the Baptist pastor. But because of that, I think he probably felt, I mean, his words were ridiculously powerful because he was incredibly inspiring, motivating, and brilliant in his delivery. But he didn't come across, right, as aggressive. And that was just part of who he is and who he was. And then he was unfortunately assassinated. I'm sure everybody knows this, but maybe there's some folks listening. He was assassinated in 1968 when he was speaking about some of these topics. And so his family lives on and carries the message in their own ways. And even here in town, before we take a break, I wanted to talk about one of the ways that if you're here in the Lincoln area, that you can see the youth of tomorrow and speaking out on behalf of trying to walk together is the Martin Luther King Youth Rally that Peter Ferguson, our very own Peter Ferguson here at 93.7 The Ticket, who does the show on Sunday mornings, Bigger Than the Score with his scholars. He is organizing it again this year. And if you're in town tomorrow, you can go to the Student Union at UNL at 9 o'clock for some of the activities around this, see some of the up and coming students. And at 10 o'clock, they have a series of presentations. I went last year, super interesting and very impressive young people coming up. Again, the next generation, you kind of get excited for the next generation and what they are able to do and talk about. And they do skits, they make presentations, and they talk, and it's just really fun time. So if you're looking for something to do tomorrow, you could do that. They're also going to stream it, and it's going to be on the Lincoln television station as well. So if you can't get out or don't want to get out, that could be something fun for you to do. So let's take a break, Aniko, and we'll come back. This is Aniko and Rebecca on Walk the Herd. We'll be right back.
The easy call? Call John Henry's. From leaky pipes to a broken AC, flickering lights to furnace fights, even drains and duct cleaning, we've got it handled. Plumbing, heating, air, and electrical, all under one trusted roof. Proudly serving homes across Lincoln, Omaha, and surrounding areas, and ready 24/7. Visit calljh.com or call John Henry's.
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating and Air,
and Electrical.
Graham Tire presents life's greatest adventures.
Okay, take the worm, put it on the hook. Now bring your pole back and throw it forward. And just let the fish come to you.
I got a bite! It's a big one, Dad.
Great road trips start with great service. Graham Tire, your tire store next door, with 5 convenient Lincoln locations, getting you to the places that matter most.
With UBT, you've got total control over your money. Like Doug, who runs his game day tailgate like a well-oiled machine.
I got burgers, brats, chicken, dogs, plus all the fixins. And with the UBT Go app, I can track my food spending from anywhere.
Pro move.
They don't call me Grill Sergeant for nothing.
No matter your goals, UBT helps you feel good about reaching them. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
MWR, a local company of Lincoln, is proud to announce they are able to offer their own post-frame building packages in metal to anyone desiring a building, whether you're a contractor or a DIYer. They can install your building as always, and they offer multiple different rib profiles and loads of color options, including the wood grain metal at great competitive prices. You can inquire at mwrbuildingandfence.com or just draw your desired building and submit it in their Contact Us page, and they'll get back to you. Call MWR today at 402-540-8966.
Back Nine Golf in South Lincoln is the premier indoor golf experience in the state. The weather in the winter months is cold, windy, and as unpredictable as a tee shot on the 450-yard par 4. With top-of-the-line full-swing simulators and a PGA teaching professional, Back Nine Golf is there to help you improve your game and lower your score. Back Nine Golf is open to the public with 24/7 access for members. Learn about Back Nine's variety of memberships today and see the facility for yourself at 7501 South 15th Street in Lincoln, just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Back Nine Golf, your premier indoor golf and events destination.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals just like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
Big box stores are tempting for buying equipment for your high schooler in sports or for yourself in your sports leisures. But buying new is awfully expensive. Why not go somewhere with new and used options? Play It Again Sports has quality, slightly to gently used equipment, and 50% of their inventory is actually new equipment. And it's more than baseball, softball, and golf. They also have equipment for disc golf, fitness, hockey, and more. Plus, they're always buying products. Bring your gear you're done with and get trade money on the spot. Play It Again Sports at 48th and Vine. Select Plumbing and Utility has been serving Lincoln and the surrounding area for 14 years, and they're not slowing down. Select Plumbing and Utility handles all your plumbing needs, from faucets and water heaters to full renovations, and they can even help with your heating and cooling needs. They're also Lincoln's underground experts, repairing and replacing broken underground water and sewer lines since day one. Contact Select Plumbing and Utility today at 402-560-6197, assuring excellence in every situation, opportunity, and challenge. That's 402-560-6197.
Tune in to 93.7 The Ticket immediately after every Nebraska men's basketball game for 1 hour of post-game recap. The Nebraska Basketball Postgame Show is sponsored by Union Bank and Trust, John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical, and the Lincoln Airport on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills Global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
You're listening to Walk the Herd on 93.7 The Ticket. Here are your hosts, Rebecca Pearson and Aniko Renee.
All right, welcome back. Here we are, Aniko, Rebecca. We're on Walk the Herd. Thanks for joining us tonight. If you want to participate in the conversation, have a comment, agree with us, don't agree with us, love what we're doing, don't love what we're doing, hey, we're open. Aniko and I are just regular people on this show, and we like to bring you unheard perspectives. And this one in particular, I said to her, this will be fun because I probably should know more than I should about both of these gentlemen. And that always interests me to go do research. And I know that, Aniko, you love to do research, don't you?
Always. It's a good day when I learn something new.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear what you've researched and what you know. And when you and I were talking about this topic, you had actually raised the topic of kind of a comparison, a contrast, I guess, when I had mentioned that I might want to talk about Martin Luther King Jr. because of tomorrow. But also, you mentioned Malcolm X, and I was like, that's cool because Malcolm X is from Nebraska. And you didn't know that. So that was the first thing you learned today, right?
Yes, indeed. It was a great jumping off point.
Yeah, cool.
I don't
All
know
right.
if he was familiar with the Ruspens, but
Yeah. Well, why don't you share what you've learned? Again, we have a ton of Nebraskans listening to this and people also from all over. But like anything, if you asked either you or me to talk a lot about the Washington, D.C. area, we would know some things very well and some things we don't know at all. So what did you find out about Malcolm X?
I kind of want to focus on his shift after he met with Dr. King in 1964. They kind of got together and were both kind of meeting each other in the middle of the bridge and realizing, hey, we need more structure, and hey, we need more community and coalition. This isn't working without us coming together. And Malcolm X took a trip to Mecca, which is a holy land in what's now like Saudi Arabia, but it's a spiritual journey or trip for the Nation of Islam. And it was the first time that he saw white, Black, brown, all different types of Muslims worshiping together. And it's where he stated that that's kind of where he lost his view that anyone white was evil or that violence was the only answer in self-defense and you couldn't worship together and integration was a false promise. He kind of shed these values and had this shift towards needing global community, not even just like this limits that were in America or the problems that were in America, but going like the world, we have to work together or we're not going to get anywhere. So I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah. Well, and it was a very significant experience for him. Now he later left the Nation of Islam, right?
Yes, they actually were responsible for his assassination in 1965.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, both of these gentlemen, we could have lots and lots of conversation about their lives, things that they were trying to do, what they learned, why there was so much hate in the world, but both of them were leading and pushing the envelope on how people should think. But I think it's always important to just say when you have differences in opinion, just two people, husband, wife, mother, daughter, whatever, a lot of those opinions come from our experiences. And if we try to spend more time understanding why somebody agrees with us, maybe they have a similar experience or a different experience that gets them to the same place. Or if you don't see things the same way, try to understand your experience, maybe why that would give you a certain perspective.
Absolutely. And I'd like to say one thing that I talk about frequently. I do mention my mom, being from West Virginia, but in coming to Nebraska, that's also a rural place. I noticed that anytime someone was trying to get to know me and asking about my background or my experience as me, it was out of genuine curiosity. There was never any like malice or ill intent. People just didn't know what it was like for me growing up where I grew up. And everyone, as soon as they got information on my story or how I felt or experience I've had, they were like, oh, well, that's so good to know. So I really love that about the people of Lincoln. They're open to learning, and that's kind of what we all need to do.
Right. I completely support that. And it is the more curious you can be, I think the better off you are. And so, you look at what Malcolm X had maybe an evolution of his trip to Mecca, but then he also, he was an orator like Dr. King was and spoke a lot and moved audiences. And I grabbed a clip of him speaking, one of his very compelling, this is a very short clip, but it just I think it sends the message of equality in a way that only Malcolm X could deliver. So hopefully Jake has got that teed up, and we'll just play this from his. So this speech was in, see if I get it right, June 28th of 1964, and this was on the founding. This was after he left the Nation of Islam, and his founding rally of the Organization of Afro-American Unity. Here's Malcolm X.
To bring about the complete independence of people of African descent here in the Western Hemisphere, and first here in the United States, and bring about the freedom of these people by any means necessary. That's our motto. We want freedom by any means necessary. We want justice by any means necessary. We want equality by any means necessary. We don't think that we should have to sit around and wait for some segregationist congressmen and senators and a president from Texas in Washington, D.C. to make up their mind that our people are due now some degree of civil rights. No, we want it now, or we don't think anybody should have it.
So again, this is Malcolm X speaking on one of his "by any means necessary," which you have to hear it in context. You know, he's a little more fiery than Martin Luther King Jr., but this is a very famous portion of his speech on "by any means necessary," and he didn't really mean a violent any means necessary. He was definitely more of, you know, being maybe a little more active than Dr. King was suggesting, but still, they'd been at it a while, and there was a level of frustration in there. And again, we are not a political show. There is no political message here, even though some of these references, again, are feel like they are somewhat in today's world. We're not doing that. That we're just sharing different perspectives. So I want to keep saying that because that's important to me with this show, that we're just sharing other perspectives. So what do you think, Aniko?
I found this comparison where it said nonviolence challenges systems morally. So what is right or wrong, or what is really being followed through in your belief systems, while self-defense protects communities physically. So it's, again, not about violence, but it's about survival. That's something anyone could get behind.
Right. And speaking up and standing up for yourself, right, when you don't agree, and allowing differences to be heard, right? A lot of what we're talking about in Walk the Herd is being heard. And so these become important to me. And Malcolm grew up in the early days in Omaha as Malcolm Little, and then he left the state and then came back as an adult and was very active here in the state. So Jacob, now I'm going to put you on the spot. We talked about this very briefly, but you grew up here in Nebraska. So I was asking you, as someone who was incredibly influential in his time, and of course this was before your time per se, but do you remember anything from school in Nebraska, or anything special where anybody talked about him in any particular way as a Nebraskan?
Not in like the basic classes. Again, you know, once you get to high school, you can kind of pick, you know, go into your own separate. But like in the basic thing, I remember learning that he was from Omaha, right. And then, you know, also learning kind of how, you know, different strategies than Dr. King, but not too much deeper than that.
Yeah. So it's interesting when even from your own state, there wasn't necessarily at least something that you remember now, which doesn't mean it didn't happen, right? We all learn a lot of information we may not have remembered, but I'm fired up because I want to go see kind of the museum in Omaha that talks to him, because I remember, and this is just unfounded on anything other than my memory, him being very polarizing because the Nation of Islam had its own history and baggage, I guess, you know, perception in this country in the 60s and 70s when I would have remembered. And certainly I was 4 and 5 years old when all of this was going on. So I wouldn't have known anything much at that time. But certainly as I was coming up, being 10, 11, right, you start to be more aware of these things, of how polarizing he could be for being a little more outspoken. And of course, he had his own life change before and after the Nation of Islam. But, you know, both of these gentlemen were activists and lobbying for change, which I think if you go to the root of just unheard perspectives being heard. That's what a lot of it's about, don't you think, Aniko? Just being heard.
Absolutely. I think that's what everyone's fighting for. And I think that's what makes them such famous figures, is that they were able to be heard. You kind of need that map and blueprint and representation to say, this has happened before. You know, the measures you may take may be different, but you can in fact be heard if the message is relatable and necessary.
And I understand the frustration of you try for years and years and years. Now, this could, again, you know, we're talking very specifically because of Martin Luther King Jr. Day tomorrow, but a lot of these issues apply to any number of things that if you're trying to drive change and you've been trying to do it for a long time, so now you could just pick any issue, pretty much any issue that you'd like to talk about where you would like change on any side of any issue, that it's frustrating after years and decades if you're trying to change something and you feel like you don't see much progress. So then just talking about how do you make change? How do you get change to come across? And a lot of that is being allowed to hear the different perspectives.
Yes. I mean, we talked about in our first, episode about changing the street names, and that was inspired by you just seeking out other perspectives and other groups and performing allyship and advocacy. And sometimes it's just not talked about enough, like the basics of what's it like for you living. We're kind of given and spoon-fed via the internet, TikTok, whatever. Like I said, these highlight reels of what existence is right now. But realistically, nobody's life is all just highlight reel. You really do have to stop and ask what it's like.
Mm-hmm. You do. And one of the things that I'm thinking as you're talking that would have been important for these two gentlemen, and as you sort of alluded to, that when they finally met each other, because they didn't know each other initially, and they came at some of the same issues in a different way, but certainly inside Malcolm X's formation of the Afro-American Unity organization was that we as African Americans need to come together, right? There's allyship from all these other groups that we would love to have, but we've got to be allies of each other and kind of work together, which again, there's so many amazing messages in what we're talking about tonight to me that apply to so many things today for getting change to occur, which is fundamentally what these two gentlemen were about, right? Their specific change was very unique to that time, but also still a topic. But just how do you go about doing it? You have these incredibly powerful speakers that are putting ideas out there, which is what we're trying to do, right?
Yep. And I think after COVID, creating and belonging to community became a little harder, maybe in different levels for different people. But I think we all kind of have some type of reserve, or not even necessarily safety concern, but just safety and will I be understood? Will I still relate to people? Can I still have, common conversation in the grocery store? Things like that.
Yeah, it's so true. And maybe when we come back from the break, we can just talk about the need to get your information, to get these different perspectives. If you always listen to or watch the same things, right? You talked about TikTok or YouTube, or, turn on the TV and listen to different channels, right? You've just got a lot of, if you only look at those, then you only hear one perspective. And we're really teeing up that conversation. So let's take a break. This is Aniko and Rebecca on Walk the Herd. We're talking about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Winter is just around the corner. Is your vehicle ready? Don't get left out in the cold. At A1 Automotive, we prep your car for whatever winter throws your way here in Nebraska. For battery checks, brake inspections, tires, heaters, whatever your car needs to keep you and your family safe on the road, we've got you covered. A1 Automotive, always honest answers.
In a world where Wi-Fi battles rage and bandwidth is never enough, one family dares to connect it all. Work from home, influence all day, stream all night, and game to win. Deadlines, downloads, and dance-offs, all happening under one roof. flawlessly. Can your internet provider do that? Fiber fuel your household at allofiber.com/all-in.
Mike, I've been thinking our house could really use a makeover. How about new siding?
I've been thinking the same thing. Have you heard of James Hardy?
Yes. Sarah down the street had Roofing Service Company install James Hardy siding on their home, and they love it.
Roofing Service Company does have great reviews.
They took her through the design process and made everything super easy.
Roofing Service Company offers expert design and installation. Couple that with James Hardy's durable products and variety of colors, you and your family will love your exterior remodel. Just visit roofingservicecompany.com. That's roofingservicecompany.com.
Hey there, this is Paul Scheel, owner of High Electric. I want to thank our friends and loyal customers and introduce High Electric to those looking for a new electrician. We've been serving the Lincoln and Omaha area for over 30 years, from design to install, upgrades, and repair. If you are a homeowner or a small business needing some electrical work, call us at 402-466-6606 or check us out at hyelectric.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
Big value and big flavor meet at Wings and Rings thanks to the all-new delicious Duo Combo. This is the one you've been waiting for. Get one half-sized appetizer and 2 entrees with a side for only $19.99. Bring a friend for the best deal in town on any day of the week, during game time, or whenever the heck you want. Their made-to-order wings and chicken sandwiches are waiting for you at their 68th and O and 40th and Old Cheney locations. Stop by Wings and Rings and celebrate every day with the best meal deal in town.
Rick Heyman here from Sartor Heyman Jewelers. I want to personally thank our great customers for voting us once again the best of Lincoln. At the same time, we're celebrating our 120th year in business in the great state of Nebraska. You can count on Sartor Heyman for the very best quality, value, and customer service. When it comes to your jewelry needs, visit us at South Point, Grand Island, and the Outlet in downtown Lincoln. Visit us today at sartorheyman.com, and thank you for your continued trust after all these years.
It's basketball season, and Salt Mine City is your pregame and postgame headquarters in the Haymarket for craft beers and great food. Get ready for the game with their big, fatty 7-ounce hamburger or try a Reuben sandwich served on Blackstone rye bread. And don't forget their beef or chicken nachos with guacamole, sour cream, jalapenos, and more. Wash it down with one of their 12 beers on tap, including the popular Single Axle Light American Lager. Salt Mine City, your basketball headquarters, now open at 2 p.m. Monday through Thursday and 11 a.m. Friday through Sunday at 8th and R.
Sometimes good people make mistakes. When you find yourself in need of an attorney, call Liberty Law Group. The attorneys at Liberty Law Group will defend you in court and protect your freedom to get you the best possible outcome and the justice you deserve. Trust your freedom to Liberty Law Group, the best criminal attorneys in Nebraska and Iowa. Call them today at 877-404-5238. That's 877-404-5238. Or check them out online at libertylawgroup.com.
If one of the things running through your mind as a business owner is the recurring worry of possible cyber attacks, you can let out a sigh of relief. Hamilton Business Technologies has you covered. As the official business IT partner of the Huskers, we offer real-time threat monitoring, advanced security protocols, and more to keep your data safe from harm. We care about the success of Nebraska businesses and communities like yours. Learn how we can help you at hamiltonisbusiness.com.
You're listening to Walk the Herd on 93.7 The Ticket. Here are your hosts, Rebecca Pearson and Aniko Renee.
Welcome back to Walk the Herd. It's Aniko and Renee having a very interesting conversation tonight. I hope you're enjoying it. We're hopefully giving you something to think about. Jake and I were just talking about that as well. And we love to learn, all three of us. And it's always fun to learn something new, but I hope that we're giving you something different to think about. And so in our last segment here, so we are talking about Martin Luther King Jr. Day tomorrow here in Lincoln. We're having the MLK Youth Rally led by Peter Ferguson, who does Bigger Than the Score on Sunday mornings. If you haven't listened to that show, you should. He is bringing always some very interesting youth to the show, and they're talking about their perspectives, which are always interesting at that age, mostly high school, and somewhere between 12 and 18 years old. And he's leading this Martin Luther King Youth Rally tomorrow. So if you need something to do, you can go to the Student Union at the University of Nebraska at 9 or 10 o'clock is when the program starts, or you can stream in or watch it on local TV, which is fantastic. We have so much exposure. Aniko, what are you thinking here as we wrap up? What are some of the thoughts you want to share with the audience?
I think one consistent theme that I saw through all of the research is that to honor both Dr. King, Malcolm X, and ourselves, we have to kind of remember that freedom's always required courage, asking hard questions, speaking up, doing the undone, evolution, and many paths walked at once. We're never going to get anywhere with one way of thinking, one type of person, one type of strategy. So I think just remaining open is the biggest message.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Jake and I were talking about this just growing up in Nebraska. You could say this about Virginia. I lived in Mississippi. We were just talking about the places that we've been. If people aren't exposed to something, they can be, like you said, when you came here, right? They're open-minded. People are curious. But if you don't expose them to a reason to be curious, then they may not know and understand something and don't know that they don't know, right? This is the name of the game in the media business, and why we have a radio station and why we're doing what we're doing is to give people something that they might not have sought out on their own or heard on their own, so that maybe they think about things differently or seek out information or have a different experience, right, than what they had planned.
Definitely. I think it keeps life exciting. And I don't think anybody wants to kind of remain the same person through their whole journey. I think that's part of the recipe of living, being alive.
Well, and I think there's that universal truth, right, of wanting to make things better than when you got here, especially parents who want to do that for their kids. I think Jake and you and Aniko would both say, right, you want something better for your kids?
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. And so what are we all doing to make it better? I think one of that is accepting and understanding differences or different point of views. And again, you don't have to agree. Like, this is a super important point for me for this show, is you don't have to agree. We're hopefully not really trying to give you opinions. We're trying to give you perspectives. So you don't have to like what we're saying, but it gives you a different way of maybe consuming information that you wouldn't have done necessarily. And so I'm hoping people that are listening to the show tonight who may not have even this much information. I know I didn't. I'm just a regular person. I didn't have it. And so bringing it to the audience is fun for me. So I have, before we head out, I have a very short clip, but I thought it was a great way to kind of leave the evening with this show. And so this last one is also from Martin Luther King's Nobel Peace Prize speech, which again, we'll drop all these longer speeches in the YouTube chat when we post it. So if you're interested in going and listening to one of these full speeches, I would highly recommend it if these topics interest you. They are both excellent. Actually, we have 3 of them. They're all excellent. None of these are the Martin Luther King I Have a Dream speech, right? These are all different ones that maybe you wouldn't have had exposure to. So on our way out here, if you would, Jake, please play this last clip very quick, and then we'll say goodbye.
I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality.
All right. That's a great way to close the show. And Aniko, here we are. We'll be here next Sunday. This is Walk the Herd, and Aniko and Rebecca. Talk to you next week.